What's up, everybody? Welcome to 3 Wide in the Middle, your home for all things racing with me, Thomas Brandon, and with me, as always, Keith Bradley. Keith, how you been, man?
Been good. Can't say that I've been too terribly good. I mean, me and the wife, we had COVID. Been sick since last Saturday.
That sucks.
Yeah, the good thing is I feel a ton better. I started feeling better yesterday, day before yesterday.
That's good.
Been off work for a damn week, it feels like, which sucks. But hey, that comes with it.
Dude, what I wouldn't give for a week off of work.
Yeah.
I might voluntarily sign up for COVID to do that. Oh my goodness. Well, that's good you guys are getting better. How was your New Year's?
I was at work, so it was okay. It was good.
Yeah, we went over to my in-laws' house, which is pretty much what we do every year. Because my side of the family, you know, like my parents and stuff like that, like they're in bed by 9. They're like, it's just another day, who cares? And we go over to my in-laws, and they, you know, they've got a bunch of kids, you know, so all the kids are all running around and playing, and then the adults, we usually play. You know, there's a couple of games that they will play when like holidays and stuff like that, and it's, you know, they've got there's like, I can't remember what it's called. It's called Toma Todo in Spanish, which is like take it all or something. It's like a top that you spin, and however it lands, you either add a quarter, take a quarter, add 2 quarters, or everybody playing adds a quarter, or you get to take it all. And sometimes that pot will, I mean, you got 5-6 people playing. Like, we've had like $30 pots with quarters. It's crazy. So we'll play stuff like that, and it's usually pretty fun. So we just did that on New Year's, and I mean, basically since then I have done nothing but have my nose to the grindstone for every single day, just still grinding away. Same thing as 2023, except it's a 4 at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Been crazy. So, did you get to see the Chili Bowl?
I did.
All right. So we're gonna do our Chili Bowl recap today. We're not gonna be hopping into any NASCAR stuff or anything like that. We'll be diving in and doing all of our preseason stuff here for NASCAR and all the sprint car series and stuff like that here in the coming weeks as we get closer to the seasons actually kicking off. So, but before we do that, I want to talk about in the open today what I think is possibly the most important thing for a race car driver to have in today's world. Now, when I say this, I'm talking about aside from talent, right? You got to be able to drive the car. You got to be good. You can't suck. All right. But there's something else that's pretty much right, just one step below it. And if you have this, it could really make or break your career as a driver. And what that is your brand, your personal brand. Now, that is something that gets thrown around a lot. Especially with all these marketing jackass gurus that you see online, you know, always pushing their crap, their stupid courses on how to become a millionaire in 6 weeks or less and all this bullshit. And for the most part, it has a bad connotation to it, because essentially what it means is it's just your reputation. How are you perceived by the public or by those who watch and follow you, right? That's all it is. And over the last week and a half, we've had some great examples of this, and no greater example was on display than what we saw between the Cannon Macintosh, and Thomas Meserol. If you look at the incident that happened between them, right, where T-Mez just literally gets cannonballed coming to the checkered flag in the B main for the Chili Bowl. If you think about those two drivers and how they are perceived afterwards, right? In the aftermath of it, a big reason for that is because of how they're perceived just in general. T-Mez is beloved. Like, he is. We can sit here and discuss and debate all day long, but you can make the case that over the last, I don't know, couple seasons, Macintosh has probably been better in a midget, at least results wise. Now, obviously, there's a lot of circumstances that came with that for T-Mez, but at the end of the day, our results are what matters, right? Even Meserol will tell you that results are what matters at the end of the day. But Macintosh is not liked, right? At least not at the level that T-Mez. It's not even close. And one of the big reasons for that is their, what you would call their personal brand, their reputation. Macintosh, to me, right? And I'm talking just from my perspective now. Macintosh, to me, is that spoiled brat, that whiny kid that if he doesn't get his way, he pisses and moans. He whines and cries. Is that true? I have no idea. I really don't. But that is my perception of him. And it's my perception of him because of the few times I've seen him, whether it's on an interview or on a video, right? Or hell, even on, T-Mez TV, he's crying, he's bitching and complaining about something that he has literally done himself. He's one of those people. He's like those sim racing jackasses that we race against, Keith, where they dive bomb the hell out of you and do all this stupid shit, and then if you rub their fender, they're on the mic yelling and screaming about it. It's ridiculous, and that to me is Macintosh. Like I said, I have no idea if that's true, but that is the perception that I have of him. And when you look at that in a sport like Dirt Midget, specifically something along the lines of, what these guys do on the USAC side of things, where we talk all the time about the money not being what the wing racing is, right? We got more guys moving to wing racing every single season now. The bigger names in USAC racing. If you do not have that perception that is going to allow you to do things like, I don't know, make money on the side with merchandise or have a social media presence or whatever, you are going to dig yourself a hole that is unfortunately going to follow you for a very long time and be very hard to break. And what we saw at Chili Bowl between those two is a great example of that. Yes, T-Mez got escorted out by some security, some official on a power trip. He was brought back in when Emmett came. Cooler heads prevailed, right? Like, it's like, dude, come on, let's not overreact here. But at the end of the day, if you look at how that incident was perceived, Macintosh has been just annihilated for it, right? What an idiot. He didn't even know what position he was in. He didn't know he already had a transfer. And you're right, he should know that. But dude, let's be honest here. If that was T-Mez, if that role was reversed, we'd be saying, hey man, Chili Bowl, dude, it's hard to know what position you're in. When you're in lap traffic after a handful of laps, that track is super small. You don't necessarily know what lap it is. We saw Justin Grant, 2 years ago, lose a race because he thought the race was over. He straight lifted and got past coming to the checkered flag. He thought the race was over, right? So this things like this can happen. That's human error. But because it's Macintosh, people don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt because of, like I said, his reputation, how he is perceived. And T-Mez, Mr. Right, I mean, this is the guy who constantly talks about slide or die. Okay, and don't get me wrong, that slider by Macintosh was, I'm like, dude, I mean, they were damn near Nerf bar to Nerf bar. It's like, I don't know how you ever thought you were going to clear that. But if the roles were reversed, I could promise you it would be a much different narrative on the Meserol side than it is now. And it largely is due to the fact that Meserol is beloved and Macintosh is not. And he's done it to himself because the few instances that you can think of where he has been in the spotlight, he's whining, crying, bitching, and moaning. Keith, what's your thought on not just the reputation aspect of, but just the incident itself? I'm sure you've seen it 100 times like everybody else has. What'd you think of it?
Man, see, like, people that don't realize about the issue, this stems from years past with these two.
Yeah, it's been going on a while.
Yeah, it's been going on a long while, and they've raced each other pretty shitty.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just leave it at that. But as far as the move, I thought it was a bitch move, to be honest. To listen to his interview after, he was like, well, I tried it before, and he just drove around it. Well, yeah, that's his job. His job is to drive around your slide job.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
just,
but
just,
that
just
move that he did before that Meserol drove around was not the same move as this one that took him out.
No. And,
he had
and
way more momentum.
Yeah, and to watch it was almost like he said, fuck it, I'm just going to send it, whether it sticks or not, or if I hit him or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like to me. And my reaction was, how do you not know that you're not in a transfer spot with all of the technology that is hanging up around that building that shows you where you're at?
Yep.
Like, granted, yeah, there's a lot going on within the inside of the car. Whether he really knew or not, we'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bad taste in my mouth when people throw moves like that when they know it's not going to clear, when they know that they're gonna make contact. And T-Mez took it like a champ. He took it right off the chin. I expected him to be a lot more animated than what he was.
Yeah.
And then for them to kick him out, I thought was also kind of a bitch move, because here's the issue, and for the people that's never driven a race car, when you're upside down and the track crew or safety crew think you're on fire, and then they blow off a fire extinguisher and it's in your face, that can kill you. That can make you really sick. For them to say that he punched him, I knew right then and there, okay, that's a little exaggerated.
Yeah.
The good thing is T-Mez has all them GoPros on his car and was able to prove that he did not touch nobody. He threw a steering wheel, yes. Did it hit an official? Yes. Was it on purpose? I highly doubt it. But here's the thing: you got to understand, when you have things like that happen, you're not expecting a fire extinguisher to be blown off in your face. How would you react to it?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I would react the same way. It would immediately piss me off. And I'm throwing the first thing that's close to me, whether it's the steering wheel, gloves, helmet.
Yeah.
Because now you got to get out of there faster than what you really want. You can't really take it in and soak up the fact that, man, I was just junked for absolute no reason.
Yeah.
And I've seen and heard all the comments, well, he lives by the slide or die and da-da-da-da-da, this, that, and the other. Well, here's the thing. I can't count on two hands how many times Cannon Macintosh has either screwed somebody, taken somebody out, wrecked somebody, or had an issue with somebody outside of T-Mez. Now, there's a couple times where T-Mez has taken people out, but I don't know. It just the whole slide job does not sit well with me, because it's like, dude, you both were locked in. All you had to do is finish.
Yeah.
And then for him to be a punk in the interview, it just that just made me less of a fan of Cannon Macintosh. And I never truly was a true fan of Cannon, because he's somewhat of a cannonball. He really is. He's a loose cannon, and I think Keith Kunz needs to reel him in a little bit, because I think Cannon could be really good.
Oh, the kid's got talent. Like, let's make no mistake about it. The kid can drive. Like, he can absolute drive. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't have a positive look on him either. You know, the instances that I think of with him are him doing stupid shit. Remember that one? I can't remember what race it was. It must have been a Power Eye race, because it was this last season. It was in 2023, and T-Mez won the race, and he didn't win a USAC race until the BC 39. So it must have been Power Eye, because it wasn't extreme.
Power Eye. I know exactly what race you're talking about.
Yeah. And Meserol throws a slider, and as he's mid-slider, right, already going, the caution comes out, and Meserol's ahead. He gets the lead. At the end, Meserol wins the race. And keep in mind, Macintosh had already jumped the start and everything like that to even get the lead. Race is over. Macintosh comes over to him, bitching, crying, throwing a fit, like literally sounds like a little kid throwing a fit. And that's what I think of when I think of Cannon Macintosh. It's like, dude, if something happens to you, it's the end of the world, yet you do it and it's okay. You can justify it. And I have a real problem with people like that in general. I just do.
And I do want to say this, and it's not even about T-Mez or Cannon. I want to give a big hats off to Tim Engler for stepping up and having T-Mez's back through all of it. I seen that man so damn animated within all the videos, him going to bat for T-Mez. Like, this ain't no shot at Dave Estep. I've never seen Dave get animated for T-Mez, and hats off to Tim having your driver's back and fighting to not be kicked out of the Chili Bowl, because if anybody's watched the T-Mez videos, they were parked outside. They made them park their rig outside this year for stuff that happened last year with T-Mez. They said that's your penalty from last year. You got to pit outside. And the practice night, I guess they didn't let them take in any spare parts, any spare shocks or anything like that. So they were trying to run outside, grab things to help the car on practice night. And it's hopefully the Chili Bowl treats T-Mez a little bit better this upcoming year.
Yeah, that's rough. So yeah, that's the old opinion on that incident. And I hated it. It sucked. I felt bad, because if, Meserol, for them to make the feature at the Chili Bowl would have been huge, just because of all the stuff, all the work that they put in on that car. They obviously were fast. They had speed. The Chili Bowl is such a crapshoot to, think about getting locked in from your prelim night, right? And the number of drivers that are there. And then you look at, how many do you take straight to the feature? 2. You're like, oh shit. Okay. So we got to be literally one of the best. And I mean, dude, he was, what was he? Tuesday night, Wednesday night? I mean,
Tuesday night.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the people who were running that night. I mean, there's some heavy hitters, and Meserol finishes in the top. I think he finished, I don't know, was he top 5? Around the top 5, I think, top 7, something like that, and was in a B main, right? Like it's a very tough show to make, very tough. And for them to basically be in it, right, be a half a turn away from getting into it and then not make it, that was unfortunate. So yeah, hopefully that they'll have a much better year this year than last year. And I'm actually looking forward to it. He is one of the people that I'm looking the most forward to watching this year, because I'm just interested to see how he does when they run the wing car. But more importantly, I'm interested to see how that car is going to do with the Ford. So now that they've seemed to have got it pretty much dialed in. All right, so let's dive into our recap of the rest of the event. Now, if you guys remember, Keith and I, we made some predictions for the prelims and then for the final night of racing. We're going to basically just go through those. We'll talk about each prelim night and then basically the final night. Overall, I thought the Chili Bowl was good. I don't have, a lot of complaints about it, which is a good thing. A lot of times you hear people complain about far more than they give credit for. But yeah, anyway, so moving on here. First night out, we had and I'm trying to get all these names right. What was it? Monday night was the Cummings qualifying night. You remember we had some pretty heavy hitters in this one. We we were just talking about him. Cannon Macintosh was in it. You had, Taylor Reimer, Noah Gass, Chris Wyndham, Chase Briscoe, Michael Pickens, and the man who won it, Tanner Carrick. Now, I had Tanner Carrick finishing second. I had Wyndham winning. Keith had Wyndham winning with Jerry Coons Jr. Did Coons even make the feature on the prelim night, Keith? I don't even remember.
I don't remember. I know he was in the 7X because they blew a motor practice night, and Davey Step allowed them to run the 7X the rest of the weekend. I do know that.
Oh, okay.
No, actually he didn't, because him and Kale, his boy, was running in a B main, and Kale transferred over Jerry.
Okay.
By 2 spots.
Yep. So yeah. I had one of the two, and one of them almost won. Big night for the boys from California. Carrick is from about 30 minutes away from me in Lincoln, and then Shane Golubic, who if you don't know who Shane Golubic is, and a lot of you probably don't unless you're like hardcore into the wing sprint car, racing. Golubic's big out here on West Coast. Okay. Corey Day, who everybody's heard of, right? We'll get to him here in just a bit. Golubic's one of the guys that's been battling Corey Day for the last, couple seasons, and he's very, very good, very fast. So awesome night for him to get second place to Tanner Carrick with Pickens, Briscoe, and then Wyndham rounding out the top 5. So first night was pretty good. Night number 2, which we had the Warren Cat qualifying night. This was, Keith and I basically had the same picks, except we had them flipped. I had the Nerd Assassin winning with T-Mez finishing second. Keith you had T-Mez winning with the Nerd Assassin finishing second. And Kofoid got the win. Meseral ended up finishing, where did he finish? 6th. He finished 6th. Pretty good night. It wasn't actually, when I watched, I thought Tuesday night was one of the nights that I didn't think there was any big surprises on Tuesday night. Nothing really stood out to me on Tuesday night in terms of, surprising factors. I thought Buddy was going to win. He did. The dude's insane. He's so good. And, one thing I've heard this whole, gotta be a midget driver to win the Chili Bowl and stuff like that. I don't know. I think you just have to have some midget driving skills, because apparently these guys can not do it very often, then come back and just dominate, which is what Buddy did. All right, who else did we? Oh, it's Hank Davis. I got to be honest with you. I don't know a lot about Hank Davis. Chase McDermott finished 3rd, David Gravel 4th, and Cameron Key in 5th. Okay, Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, I want to talk about Wednesday night for a few minutes here, because I had some people who actually told me that they thought I was reaching on Wednesday night when I said that I thought Corey Day was going to win, and Corey Day won. Keith, did you see Wednesday night?
Corey Day is the real deal. Yes,
dude, he's beyond the real deal. Yes. And the best part about that was the fact that he was driving a car that had a 19-year-old Mopar engine in it. The engine was older than Corey Day.
Yep.
I love that. That is so awesome, dude. That is so awesome.
And that whole car is old.
Yes, it is.
And that's what makes it even more exciting, interesting.
Yep. And, I talked about it when we did our preview. I said, Willie Kane is one of those guys who knows. I mean, Willie Kane can set up a dirt car on anything, especially open wheel dirt, like he can. The dude is legitimately like genius when it comes to that stuff. If it wasn't for the whole factory cane shocks thing, like that dude could go out right now and probably get on with a handful of outlaw teams, right? I mean, he's that good, and he had that car dialed, and you would have thought it was all brand new equipment. And I got to tell you, it was something that made it that much better for me, just because we hear about that all the time with the Chili Bowl, right? Everybody's bringing all this new stuff and cutting edge equipment, and it's got to be lighter and better and newer and just more power and everything else. And then here's this kid in a car that is older than my daughter, who's graduated high school already, and they're winning. It was incredible. So yeah, I had Corey Day winning. I had Sunshine finishing second. Sunshine, he had a nice comeback after his flip there. And he started towards the back anyways. I think he started 17th or something, 16th.
Yeah, he started deep.
Yeah, started deep and was able to make his way up to 8th. You had Blake Hahn winning.
That didn't go too well.
No, it didn't. He finished 15th, and you had Sunshine finishing second, which you didn't get there. One thing I will say is that I want to give a shout out to my man who I said was going to be my surprise driver, which was Rylan Gray. Rylan, he made it to the feature on his prelim night and started 19th and moved his way up to 13th. I know in a week where we see some drivers, on the move, which we'll get to Daison Pursely's incredible run when we get to the final night here. But to move up 6 spots at the Chili Bowl is not an easy feat. It's really not. When you look at most of the drivers in those prelim nights, most of them are moving, if they're moving forward, it's 2-3 spots. They're not moving up a half a dozen. So for him to make the feature and then finish up there, I was pretty stoked to see that, man. I thought he did a good job. I know most of you probably don't know who he is, but I do, and I was happy to see him. Happy to see him get a good run in there. All right, night number 4. I think Victory Fuel qualifying night. Swindells are going to just be taking over the Chili Bowl here in the future. So Keith, you got this one. You had Spencer Baston and Tanner Thorson. You had Spencer Baston winning, Tanner Thorson finishing second. You literally hit the nail on the head. This was by far my worst night. I had JJ Yaley and Brady Bacon. That was my my Hail Mary night. Luckily I didn't need it, but yeah. That was actually a really good run by Baston. I got to be honest with you, man. I thought Baston was definitely going to be one of the guys to compete with for the win on Saturday, because I thought he looked damn good on his prelim night.
Yeah, and I didn't have Spencer Baston being the only RMS car in the big show on my bingo card. I didn't at all. And
nope.
He looked good. He looked really good Thursday night. Tanner Thorson looked really good too. It's something about the Chili Bowl, man. Spencer Baston ran really well last year. Tanner Thorson ran really, really well last year. And I think this is one of the better nights, not just because the Kyle Larson effect, because Kyle was there, but as far as racing goes, I think the racing was really good Thursday night overall. I do have one issue, though, that I'd like to bring up. I don't understand how guys can show up to a race or run in a race and have safety parts fail. I don't know if you've seen it, Tommy. The guy that, I think it was Thursday night, got upside down, helmet came off. I don't understand how
how stuff like
drivers,
that keeps happening at the
crew
Chili Bowl.
can be so incompetent when it comes to putting your safety devices on, whether it's seat belts, arm restraints, your helmet. Like, of all things to come off when you're upside down, a helmet.
Should not be one of them.
I don't understand how people could be so stupid. And granted, yeah, we don't know exactly what happened. Don't know if the chin strap safety failed. I'm going to assume that the poor guy left it loose and it slipped off.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Like, if I would have done any of that in my car when I was racing, my dad would have thumped me.
Yeah, that's something you don't mess with, is safety.
No, the biggest priority is safety. Make sure that you come home in one piece after each night. Granted, yes, he walked away from it, luckily. I just don't understand how every year there's always a safety talk. We always got to have this talk of either seatbelts failing, now helmets coming off.
Yeah.
And I think that was the same night some dude's throttle hung up and about freaking killed him. I just don't understand how you show up to, I'm going to say, one of the biggest races of the year to start the year and have things like that go wrong. Like the guy that I'm mentioning, I don't even know his name, but he went into turn one, throttle hung, and it looked like he was dead in the car.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Chili Bowl staff needs to step up and be like, look, if you're a Joe Blow and you've never raced a midget, you cannot run the Chili Bowl. I don't think it should be that way. I think everybody should have a fair shot. But on the other hand, you don't need shit like that happening at all.
No, you don't.
Like, this guy was in a very old car. The body parts, the body components of the car just exploded off the car. You had arms hanging out of the car. I just don't understand it. I don't get why teams make shortcuts when it comes to safety for the biggest race of the year, knowing that, yeah, you're not in the national spotlight, but you're the main show on Flow outside of that late model race. The people are going to be watching. I mean, the crowd was packed especially that night.
Chili Bowl's it's sold out every year now.
I don't understand it. Yeah. I just don't.
I don't either. And look, this is coming from a guy that when I was 18, we were building an outlaw cart, and the seat mount that we had, the bottom seat mount that we had, didn't work. We had a race the next day, and we only had like 8 hours that we were up all night building this car. And we zip tied our seat in. Okay.
That's amazing.
We actually zip tied the seat in. Now, keep in mind, it had the mount on the back of the seat that was still bolted in properly, but the bottom of the seat was zip tied to the frame. Now, when I say it was zip tied, I don't mean like we put a zip tie. We had probably 20 zip ties, and they were those zip ties that are like as big as your pinky finger. You know what I mean? Like them thick, wide ones. And I wasn't racing it that night. My buddy Lee was. I was the one who was setting it up. And he flipped it that night. And that seat did not budge. Now, an outlaw cart is not a midget. But my point is this. I would never dream of doing something like that in a midget. I would never dream of having a car to where if it's like, dude, we can race it. But if we wreck, the pieces might go everywhere, right? And I'm sure that's not people's intentions, but you're right. The fact that we keep having these like safety issues, these safety hiccups with the Chili Bowl each year is it's becoming a theme now. And there's a couple of ways that you can look at it, right? I can make arguments for a multitude of paths on this. Number one is, look, when you have that many cars showing up, right? You got almost 400 cars showing up with drivers. Shit happens, okay? And that's the truth. It could be, right? It's just simple math. Things are going to happen, right? Whether they're mistakes or faulty parts or whatever, things happen. Number two is, the Chili Bowl has always been one of these things where it's kind of this, run what you brung type of incident, right? Or instance, right? Where they don't have the same type of guidelines and rules that the other sanctioning bodies do, right? This isn't a USAC race. This isn't, Extreme Outlaws. This is the Chili Bowl. It's its own thing. You got different wheels that you're running. You got all kinds of different stuff for this race alone. People built specific cars for this race, right? And when you see, like we just talked about Corey Day, he was in a motor that was almost 20 years old and a car that was hella old too, and he won his prelim night. It can be done. And I think the problem is that you have just two different types of setups there, right? Whether it's professional versus amateur or experienced versus not as experienced, however you want to phrase it. I think what we're going to see happen with the Chili Bowl is that there's going to end up becoming this minimum standard that needs to be met, whether it's with equipment or experience or whatever, because the last thing that they want is somebody dying at the Chili Bowl, right? That's the last thing any of us want. We don't want to see that. We don't want that to happen. But unfortunately, these midgets, a midget is not the same as a sprint car, winged or non-winged. Okay. When you look at them and you're like, dude, that's a sprint car. It's just like half the size, right? And when you look at them, they even look similar. You're like, that looks kind of, you take off the body parts and you're like, that's just a smaller rear end and that's just a smaller motor. And those are just smaller wheels and smaller, everything's just small, but that's not really the case. On a sprint car, everything, if you look at like the engine, for example, everything's nice and neat and it's almost identical on every car. Well, that's because the packaging of it is basically the same. And you can swap a motor out in a 410 sprint car in literally, you're talking minutes, right? Minutes. You have a couple of guys who know what they're doing and you got an engine hoist. Dude, you can rip that motor out and have a new one in literally 40 minutes. 45 minutes, right? You're flying, but you can do that. You can't do that on a midget. Everything is like built to fit. It's a completely different thing. And it was like this when I used to work on these cars, 18, 20 years ago. We could, and I wasn't a pro, but me and a couple of other guys, we could swap the motor out in a few hours on the sprint car. If we wanted to do that on the midget and have it back in and running, that was like a 2-day process because you have to replumb everything and everything is like its own special piece that you're making to fit around this and this has to fit here. And we can't put that on until we put this on. And they're just a whole other beast. And when you have, to get to my point here, when you have these cars with this many people and they're, guys are building whatever they can to get to this race, because let's be honest, there might be almost 400 cars there, but 85% of them are going to the Chili Bowl because they just want to be a part of the Chili Bowl, right? Yeah, you got to think you're the best when you get on the track if you want to have a shot at doing good, but the majority of them are like, man, let's just go run the Chili Bowl. That would be awesome, right? We're not going to win. If we even make the feature, it'll be amazing, but let's just go run the Chili Bowl. And that can, whether it's shortcuts or you're using whatever I don't know, but that can lead to issues if you are not making sure to dot every I and cross every T. And when you look at these teams, right? You look at someone like Keith Coons, right? Like you're talking about the most professional operation out there, or one of the most, right? I guess you can make the arguments for other ones. And then you look at Joe Blow over here, who came from, who's from my backwoods here in Live Oak, California, and they just built their car over the last month, right? It's different. It's different. And that guy's not going to have the experience that Keith Coons has, and there's a chance that they might miss something, right? And so we started seeing, with the inspections and all this stuff like this and making sure things are going to happen. And I think that's going to tighten up as long as stuff like this happens, right? Someone's helmet falls off, dude's car explodes when the throttle gets on. It's just, the cars are getting lighter and faster, and this track ain't getting bigger, right? It's the same size track. So, there's coming a point, and with it now, there's more eyes on it than ever. The Chili Bowl it's one of the premier dirt races of the year. It's not just like, premier midget race. It is like one of the premier dirt races of the year. Like, you can make the argument, it might not be up there money wise, but in terms of, people paying attention, prestige, that type of deal, it's right there below, Knoxville Nationals, Kings Royal, Late Model Dream, those types of races. It's just one step below that. It's a huge event. So yeah, I'm with you, Keith. Definitely gonna see. I'm thinking we're gonna see all that stuff tighten up, because we don't want those incidents to lead to horrible injuries, or worst case scenario, lose somebody. So all right, so that was, what was that? Thursday night. Yep, Thursday night. So we got Friday night. Friday night was a big disappointment. Friday night was disappointing because one of my favorite dirt drivers just had a horrible night, and that was Justin Grant. Justin Grant, who was always one of the, just perennial favorites going into this event. I mean, you think about the runs that this dude has had there over the last few years. It's pretty incredible what he's done there. And, he was Mr. Friday night, right? Like, that's what he's been. He has dominated Friday night prelims over the last however many years, and he had a tough one. He was running third. Logan Seavey got the win. I had Logan Seavey finish in second, and Ryan Timms finished in second. Grant was running third and just caught the wall there coming out of 4 and flipped it. Did you see Friday night, Keith?
Watched bits and pieces. I had a league race Friday night, but I watched highlights. I seen the Grant wreck.
It was tough, man. I felt bad, dude, because that happens and your weekend's pretty much done, right? I mean, obviously you can drive through the field, as we saw, Daison Pursely, which we'll get to here in just a minute, do. But that's so rare because it's so hard to pass there. And you don't know what track you're getting. At the Chili Bowl, it's not, there isn't some kind of set, guide or outline on what to expect for the track. And what I mean by that is this: when you get to Saturday and you've got, I don't know, you've got a K main or whatever the hell they've got. I mean, there's so many constellations, right? When you've got that many constellations, you know that there's going to be reworks of the track. You know that they're going to add water or till up the top layer, right? Repack it or whatever. You know that those things are going to happen. You don't know when exactly. You have a rough idea. And even then, you have no idea how quickly that track is going to slick off. You have a rough idea, but you don't know. Like, they reworked the track before the feature. Look at how that track was after 55 laps. So you don't know. So to be able to hit the nail on the head with your setup so you can literally work your way through those fields and do it quickly is tough for anybody, even if you're Justin Grant, who is, in my opinion, one of the best non-wing race car drivers, whether it's midget, sprint cars, Silver Crown, on the planet. And he dug himself a huge hole Friday night, which was really unfortunate. Stenhouse Jr. did too, which was sad to see. I always like to see Ricky Stenhouse Jr. do good whenever he runs dirt, so that was a bummer. Although that's pretty on brand for him. He, even when he was racing dirt consistently, he was a win it or wreck it type of driver. So Seavey got the win. Wasn't really shocked by that. I thought he had a chance going into it. I got to tell you, going into the race, I thought it was Justin Grant's to lose. Grant was starting second. And Seavey worked his way through the field. I mean, he started 7th or 8th and got up to first. And the dude's insane. He is so freaking good. And his apparently his year that he had last year is just carrying over. Apparently that's not a it wasn't just a great year. That's just going to be the norm now with Logan Seavey.
Yeah, and Logan's really good when it comes to the Chili Bowl, or he has been here lately. And now I got to eat my crow. And it doesn't taste very good, I can tell you that. But
yeah.
I'm going to say I was dead ass wrong when it came to my Logan Seavey take.
So for those of you who don't remember, Keith had Logan Seavey as his most disappointing driver of the Chili Bowl.
to say the least, that I was wrong. I was wrong. Call it what you call it, but I was dead ass wrong, and I'm not afraid to admit that I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I get for betting against not just a Seavey, but a Swindell inside of that building, and a Swindell that's won that race multiple times. Man, we were talking in our group chat after the race, and I said, could you imagine if Seavey was in the 39 all year?
Yeah.
It's to come in a one-off race and not just win it last year, but to double up is very impressive when you just race for that team one time. And I feel like they would be very dominant and very stout if they were together for a full season. Now, yes, it's hard to do with Kevin doing the wing stuff and Seavey doing his stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, do you think this is, I'm going to call it the Chili Bowl dynasty. Do you think this is a new Chili Bowl dynasty?
It sure seems like it.
We've seen it with Sammy with his stuff, Kevin with his stuff. And now we're starting to see it with Logan Seavey and Kevin with the 39. And it seems like we have a dynasty starting with these guys.
It sure seems like it. And, last year, speaking of the wing car, last year, the 39 Swindell car didn't run that much. It didn't run nearly as much as it used to. Now, from my understanding, I think Kevin was sick last year. They also, if you remember, they had Justin Sanders, then he went, then they had Hunter Schoenberg, who actually got them their best finish of the year, which was, the feature at Knoxville Nationals, making the feature at the Knoxville Nationals. I think they might have finished top 10, top 10 or top 15, something like that. But they didn't run that car very much. Well, it sounds like this year they're going to be running Logan Seavey in that 39 car this year, the wing car. And this is, we talked about it. I talked about it before. I said this was one of the most controversial things that I said, where people thought I was nuts, where I was talking about, look, we've got two premier wing sprint car series now, national tours. And everyone's talking about it's going to divide the drivers. And I said, I thought the biggest thing that it could hurt was our USAC stuff, that we would see more of these midget and non-wing guys go to the wing side. Logan Seavey has ran some wing races. He hasn't, from my understanding, the schedule that they're looking at running this year is nothing like he's done before. Same thing. We see Chris Wyndham's going to be doing a whole lot more. Tanner Thorson's going to be doing a whole lot more. We've seen a lot of these guys make that move, but I really think Sunshine, Tyler Courtney, is one of the biggest reasons that we're seeing this migration. Obviously, it's more money. We've talked about the money aspect of it ad nauseum. We don't need to get into that. But to see Tyler Courtney have the success that he's had on the wing side, I think there's a lot of these guys looking at that being like, dude, I can do that. I can do that. And, they are doing it. Even Meserol is going to be running a lot of wing races this year, right? He's going to be running that Maverick series and running low. He's not just doing, USAC midgets. So we're seeing a lot of these top guys make that jump. Obviously, they're going to continue running midgets and stuff like that, but we're seeing them make that jump, make that move. And yeah, from what I'm hearing, Seavey's going to be piloting that 39 410 sprint car. So I'm actually looking forward to that, because if you actually look at when that car is at its best, when the Swindell car is at its best, it's when they have a driver that they are running with consistently. And what I mean by that is when those guys were, you look a couple years ago, when they would run, one race, it would be Christopher Bell, and then they would throw in a Justin Sanders, and then they would throw in Sammy, right? And then there was no consistency, right? They might have a good run here, they might even win a race, but there was no consistency. When those guys are at their best, it's when they've got, and the working with a team as a driver and vice versa, you need time. There's a relationship aspect and a communication aspect that you need to have in order to be successful, right? My buddy Kyle, that I've talked about a bunch, and he lives out here on the West Coast, and he runs sprint cars up and down the West Coast and stuff like that, owns a car. He's and he's going to be running a couple of cars this year. And I'm going to be going with them to a lot of stuff. In fact, I'll be making videos of it and stuff like that. I'll be documenting a lot of it because I just want to kind of show that side of things. But anyways, and we were talking about it because he's got one car he's going to be running consistently with the guy. It's his nephew that's been driving. He's got another one he's going to be running with the new driver for a lot of the bigger events. And they're going to be starting off at other stuff, because you can't just show up for the high limit swing with a new driver and expect to just knock it out of the park. You've got to have that communication. You've got to know what the driver wants. When they say this, what do they mean? Right? What are they talking about? We think you just be like, oh, it's loose. Well, dude, that can mean so many different things. Right? One of the greatest stories of all time when it talks about, driver crew chief communication, if you haven't listened to it, it's hilarious, was Andy Petrie. Did you ever watch the Dale Jr. download, Keith?
Yeah.
You ever see the story when Petrie was talking about Dale Earnhardt and how he described a loose race car?
Yeah.
It's hilarious, man. It's hilarious. Petrie keeps asking him, hey, man, how's the car feel? And Earnhardt says, it's pretty neutral. And so Petrie thinks what anybody else would think. Well, car must be good, because neutral means it's not loose, it's not tight. And every driver that I've worked with, that's what neutral means. So finally at Rockingham, the car looks like it's spinning out through the corner or about to. And Petrie says, hey, man, how's the car? And he said, well, it's pretty neutral. And he's like, God, that thing looks loose to me. He's like, well, I've been telling you it's neutral. Like, neutral meant loose for Dale Earnhardt. And what he was talking about was the feeling in the steering wheel. That's what he meant by that. Now, I know that seems like a one-off story, right? And we're talking about Dale Earnhardt and Andy Petrie in NASCAR. The same stuff applies in dirt racing. It really does. No matter who the driver is and who the crew chief is, that consistency matters. And I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do, because I think Logan Seavey is an incredible talent. I know you feel the same way, Keith. And Kevin Swindell, the guy knows racing. He knows racing, man. He obviously knows the Chili Bowl. What, he won 4 of them? I mean, as a driver, now he's won 2 more as a car owner, crew chief. So I'm with you, man. I think it's going to be awesome to see what they can do in that 39 sprint car this year. It's going to be interesting to see. Although I'm sad to see Wing Racing take another one of our USAC guys.
Yeah, and the good thing is now they got some continuity within that 39, because like you said, they'd have X driver for this race, different driver for this race, and now they get the same driver week in and week out, and now they can just build on that relationship, because as well as I know, if you have a good relationship with your crew chief, car owner, or whatever, the better off you will be, because now you can read how the car is doing just by body language. And that's a good thing I like about Kevin Swindell. You don't really got to get it. I mean, you got to get in depth, but you don't have to get as far in depth, because body language is everything. Talking with your hands as a race car driver is very big. and people point, laugh, and joke about it, but it's true.
Yep.
I'm excited to see what they can do. I'm excited to see what the 39 can offer to Logan and what Logan can offer to the 39, because he is a really good wing racer when he's given the opportunity to run in a wing car. And I know Chase Briscoe's gave him a couple opportunities. Landon Simon's another one, gave him a couple opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, me too.
I will not be betting against them this time. I will say that.
No, me neither. So that brings us to our final night, Saturday night, which is feature night. Obviously, a lot is going on the final day of the Chili Bowl. Like I said, they've got, what did they have? They had an O main, and keep in mind there is 2 of each. That's insane.
Yeah, it's wild. And like I said,
that's what is? I'm trying to count it off. What is that? Is that 15 letters? That's half the alphabet.
Yes.
And it's half the alphabet, and multiply that by 2. That's you take the A main out, right? That you're talking that's like 24 prelims. That's insane, dude. That is insane. Oh my God. I did not even realize that they ran that many. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I did not watch all the prelims. I didn't start watching until about the D main. That's crazy.
I can sit and say with my hand raised that I did not feel good Saturday, and I laid on the couch and started watching it as soon as I woke up, and I seen the very first prelim that morning.
Yep. So now I did like the way that I do like the pole shuffle, the way that they do that, and get those guys out there and head to head and run in and stuff like that. So I did like that. That was pretty cool. And I didn't watch that live. I went back and watched some highlights because, like I said, I was not going to be sitting there watching the whole. It's cool when you're there, when you're at the Chili Bowl. And keep in mind, when I was there the last time, I want to say that there was it was like an H main, a G main, something like that. I mean, there wasn't almost 400 drivers. There was around 300, just under 300, I think, when I was there, somewhere right around there. But yeah, it's a long day of racing. Now, Kyle Larson, we talked about it. We mentioned it. He called Keith Coons, wanted to come race. Keith had an extra car. Larson showed up, had a tough prelim, and because he didn't lock himself in, couldn't get locked in, he was done. That was it. He had essentially one shot to make it. And if you actually look at the scheduling and everything that happened, there was a good chance that if he had been locked in, that he still might not even have been able to make it in time. So
he needed 3 hours.
Yeah. So it would have been tough. No, I was just going to say it would have been tough.
Yeah. And to back up what Tommy's saying, beings at the Chili Bowl show moved faster than I think everybody anticipated.
Yes.
They would have had to delay the race almost 3 hours just to give Kyle a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And that still would have been very, very iffy. And I'll say this, I think that's the first time I've ever seen Kyle Larson show up and struggle in a midget. Just to throw it out there, I think
he looked human.
Yes,
which I loved, folks. I'm a huge Kyle Larson fan. I think Kyle Larson is one of the best things to happen to dirt racing ever. I really do. And we can sit and argue all day long about whether or not this would have happened anyways with a different driver because of social media and exposure. Whatever. That's fine. I'm just telling you right now, Kyle Larson is one of the greatest things to ever happen to dirt racing. You can see a direct correlation between Kyle Larson and where dirt racing is at today. If you look at him getting up to, especially over just the last couple of years, you look at when he got in trouble in NASCAR, lost his ride, went dirt racing for a full year, then went to Hendrick and has been bouncing back and forth. You look at that year that he lost in NASCAR and was full-time dirt racing and the exposure that dirt racing has now, there is a direct correlation between that. Absolutely. People pay.
Yep.
So there's so many more people who follow dirt racing because of Kyle Larson.
Well, and dirt racing needs Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson needs dirt racing.
Absolutely.
It is a love-hate relationship to a point, but I think the things that Kyle Larson has brought and done for dirt racing needed to happen.
Yep.
Long before Kyle Larson even did it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just because I think there was a disconnect between motorsports fans with dirt racing. I mean, everybody before Kyle Larson thought dirt racing's just a bunch of rednecks, bunch of toothless rednecks, and dirt racing's dumb. This is dumb about it.
Stepping down.
Yeah, and
which is the dumbest thing
I've ever heard in my entire life. Because we can sit here and say there's more talented dirt racers than there are NASCAR drivers. I'm sorry, but it's true. It is a fact.
Yes.
There's dirt superstars all over the country, and if you put them all in one room, you wouldn't be able to.
Yep.
You could fit 30 NASCAR drivers in one room. You can't with dirt.
Yep.
And the things that Kyle does for dirt, his love and passion for dirt racing, is awesome to see from a fan side, from a driver side, from a former race car driver side. It is awesome. Dirt racing needed to be, I'm not going to say put under the microscope, but put on the map.
Yeah. Have the spotlight shown on it. Yep.
Yeah. And thank God for Flow Racing and Dirt Vision for seeing all this. And and not only just Kyle Larson, but the people that's close to Kyle actively support dirt racing. I mean, would you ever imagine a day where Rick Hendrick supports dirt racing? No.
Yeah, no.
No. Chip Ganassi supporting dirt racing?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, because you didn't see Jeff Gordon doing this when he was driving.
No, and I think we all can sit here and say that Chip Ganassi has always had somewhat of a soft spot for dirt racing in his heart, because, I mean, Brian Clausen took a flyer on him. Kyle Larson took a flyer on him. One worked out and one didn't. But now dirt racing's back where it belongs. I think in my opinion, I think dirt racing needs to be on a national scale as far as TV goes, and as far as putting it even further into the lights of the national spotlight, I'll say.
Yeah.
I know I caught a bunch of flack from somebody saying, because I said dirt racing's far more superior than the NASCAR racing. I'm sorry, I'll stick to it. I'll live on and die on that hill.
Yep, I do too. And to bring it back around to what I started to say on this, and I got sidetracked too. I'm the one that got you sidetracked. It's just good to see Larson be human, because it allows other people to step into the spotlight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could be Joe Blow racing at the Chili Bowl, and hey, I beat Kyle Larson to transfer into the big dance. And what I love about Kyle just coming out of nowhere and blindsided everybody is it brought Ricky Stenhouse Jr. back to the Chili Bowl.
Yep.
And I think I kind of flew under the radar because of the hype Kyle Larson brought.
It did.
But I thought that was great to see too. And I'd like to be a fly on the wall to see how that all transpired, whether Ricky was like, well, damn, if he can just call and get a ride, I can do the same thing. Yep. And hats off to Keith Coons for stepping up and saying, yep, we got a car for you. And then,
thank God he's got so many cars lying around.
I mean, good thing you brought 30 of them to the Chili Bowl. And to not even answer the phone, or to answer the phone for Kyle Larson, but then to turn around and answer the phone for Ricky, I thought was awesome.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, Larson, rough weekend at the Chili Bowl, but it was still cool to see him make the attempt. So back to Saturday. If you look at, and we're going to highlight Daison Pursely here. Daison Pursely was in the D main. All right. And He was able to work himself from the D to the C. He won the D main. All right. He then barely made it out of the C. He started sixth, which keep in mind, he started 16th in the C. He finished 5th. Okay. B main, where the hell did he go? B main, he starts 20th and finishes 5th. And he made it to the A main. All right. Now, keep in mind, he's not racing scrubs. Okay. Daison Pursely's B main, all right, that he was able to drive to 5th place. Okay. Here's the drivers that were in this B main. Just some of them. Michael Pickens, Michael Facento, Cale Drake, Chase McDermott, CJ Leary, Landon Brooks, Zach Daum, Bryant Wiedemann, Tyler Courtney, Chris Wyndham, Cale Coons, Nick Hoffman. On most nights, that's a feature. That's on a B main. And keep in mind, that was one of 2 B mains. That's a feature. And he drove through, dude, just diced up the field. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. You know, I wasn't around for, you know, I wasn't watching live when Wolfgang, you know, made his miraculous run through the Knoxville Nationals, right? You know, literally did the alphabet soup to the feature and then had an incredible A main. I didn't get to see that, right? That was a little before my time in terms of when I was paying attention to sprint car racing. And I don't want to sit here and compare this to Doug Wolfgang's incredible run, but this was incredible. To do this at the Chili Bowl, to be in the D main and make it to the feature the way that he did is nuts. Because, folks, he didn't just make the feature. All right. He started 20th in the feature and finished in 4th. He finished 4th. He's one spot off the podium. That is so incredible. It is so incredible. Keith, did you see Pursley's run? Did you get to see it in the consolation? Because it was nuts, dude. It was absolutely nuts, man. I was blown away by it.
Daison Pursely have a day, my friend.
Oh my God, dude.
Holy
it was
cow.
Nuts.
I did not have that on my bingo card, and I wish I did.
Me too.
Daison Pursely proved to everybody that he belongs in the sport of midget racing, whether it's racing full time or he deserves to have a ride.
Oh yeah.
He does. Yeah. He shocked the hell out of me. I will say that. I did not expect him to go from the D to the C to the B. And like you said, he's starting at the tail of the C, and the C could be basically a USAC feature somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just gets harder in the B, because now you might as well say you're playing one of the old good NASCAR games on the hardest level possible.
Yes.
And transfers through.
Yep.
And not just transfers through, now he's got to start at the tail of, we'll say, a video game on All Pro.
Yeah.
Everything maxed out as far as the hardness level goes, and runs all the way to the, I'm going to say damn near to the front, because he finished 5th or 4th. That is hard, especially when the track basically locked itself down and it went single groove. But Daison Pursely was flying, and I almost wonder if he had something for Logan Seavey if a yellow did happen to come out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit and say he did, because, I mean, of course he didn't, because it went green. But it would have made it interesting, because I think he would have at least made a run to a podium, if not second.
Yeah.
Because I think he was way faster than Buddy. He just couldn't get to him because the track locked down.
Yeah, the track did lock down. And keep in mind, okay, what is he? Is he 19? 20?
He's young.
He's young. He's not 21. And this is only, has it even been 2 years since he broke his neck?
Been a year.
Because it was last year at wasn't it last year at the Tulsa shootout that he came back after like 9 or 10 months?
Something
I want to
like
say it was
that,
last year that he came back. You guys, if you don't know, Daison Pursely like broke his neck, and like he had to like relearn how to walk and stuff.
Yeah, they didn't think he was going to race again.
No, they thought he was going to be a vegetable, man. I can't remember the term that they used, but it was like a
So
it's like undiagnosed quadriplegic or partial
Yes.
or incomplete, or it was some kind of weird word. I've never heard it explained like that before.
So-
But basically, he was like a quadriplegic, but not completely. Like there was still a chance. I don't know. It was weird, but he was able to have a surgery and come back.
yeah, so November of 2021 is when he was hurt. When he got hurt, he was 17 at the time. He fractured or broke his C4 and C5 and had to have a fusion surgery to repair it. So yeah, he's 18, 19 years old, 19.
Yep. And for him to come back to the Chili Bowl, or I shouldn't say come back, because last year he was back, but to run the Chili Bowl this year and have the run that he had is incredible.
Yeah, and not to get way off topic, but Daison looked really good in a non-wing sprint car for KO last season. I'm excited to see how this momentum from the Chili Bowl carries the rest of the way. And to get back on the subject of his wreck, I think they were thinking that it was going to end up being like a Shane Meal type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Similar injury to a point. And they expected the same outcome. And those of you that don't know, Shane Meal was racing a Silver Crown car, had a crash, hit cage first into a concrete barrier, and paralyzed him. And they were thinking that Daison was going to end up the same way. Glad to see that he's not. I think Daison Pursely is really, really good for dirt racing when given the opportunity. And I love that he went and showed out in one of the Reinbold cars, because in my eyes, Keith Kunz threw him back to the wolves after he got hurt. Basically said, I don't need you anymore. And Daison one-upped him and damn near put it on the podium at the Chili Bowl. He did it the hard way.
Yeah, did it the very hard way. So yeah, hats off to him. I just wanted to give him some flowers on that, because he had an incredible run.
And they're well deserved.
Yes.
Well deserved.
Yep, he had an incredible run. And speaking of incredible runs, obviously Logan Seavey got the win. Buddy finished second. Corey Day, my man, who I've been hyping up like crazy, and who doesn't even need my hype because he's so good, got third, put it on the podium. And Pursely finished fourth. Hank Davis fifth. Big run for him. Shout out. Golubic was sixth. Carrick seventh. Baston eighth. Vicento ninth. And Jake Swanson 10th. So huge run for all of those guys. I mean, just making the feature is a big deal. For any driver at the Chili Bowl. One driver who had a really good run, which, I didn't hear a whole lot about this guy until I started watching him, was Cale Drake. Now, Keith, maybe you can fill me in on this, because I honestly don't know. This was the first time I'd heard his name. Is he relation to Jay Drake?
I believe
his son?
so. I believe so.
Because that's what I thought when I heard. I was like, Cale Drake. I'm like, that sounds like I wonder if he's related to Jay Drake. Now, I remember watching Jay Drake at the Chili Bowl when I was there. So that's how long ago that was. But yeah, he was somebody that I hadn't heard much about, and he had a really good run at the Chili Bowl for someone who's not getting a lot of, like I said, not getting a lot of pub. He came from the B main, locked himself in, moved up four or five spots to transfer, and then he started 22nd in the feature and drove all the way up to just inside the top 15, got 14th or something like that. So nice run for him. On the opposite side of that, some guys who had some bad luck in the feature. Tanner Thorson, rough night for him. Chase Briscoe, who had, unfortunately he DNF'd in the feature, but had a good run when you look at the week in totality. Pretty good week for him.
Yeah, and I gotta give a shout out to Risky Brisky. Not only did he put himself in the show, but he had both of his team cars in the show, which is great. Carter Sarf was in the other Chase Briscoe car. And I know Chase has been looking forward to making the big show for quite some time now. And
yeah,
he looked really good in the Virock race and used that momentum and carried him to the big dance. Unfortunately, he didn't have the success that I don't think he wanted. But man, hats off to him getting both cars in the A feature Saturday night.
Yep. Nice. Nice job for Chase Briscoe. Yeah, it was good to see. Maybe he ought to consider making a move back to dirt racing, be done with this whole NASCAR thing. So seemed to do better on the dirt, but don't think that'll happen. So overall, it was a really good week of racing. Now, last thing, because there was some complaints about the track prep.
As usual.
Yeah, which I'm surprised that, I would be surprised if there wasn't, just because there always is. I think it was it Keith Coons who said track prep gets an F for the weekend or something like that. I want to say Keith Coons said it was something like that. I've read so many articles and seen so much stuff. I've got it all confused. I should have wrote it down. For those of you, I'm a little off right now. It's almost 8 a.m. my time, and I was up until after midnight last night working. So I want to say it was Keith Coons, but yeah, a lot of people were complaining about the track, and it got rubbered down there at the end, which we've seen happen at the Chili Bowl before. This isn't something new, but I honestly don't know, Keith, if there's a way to prevent it. I don't know if there's a way to prevent it.
Yeah, and I don't know either. I don't know if you could run all the soup races the day before, start the show earlier on Friday. I don't know the best way to do it.
That's the thing with that many cars, even with them reworking the track, I don't know if it's possible. I don't in the time frame, to have a track that doesn't rubber down.
I think the only other thing that I could think of is, instead of having Sunday practice day, maybe have practice day Saturday and start the show a day sooner. I don't really know. I just know that people bitched last year because the show took too long, because why? They were prepping the track. They were reworking the track, and now that it was sped up, they were happy that, hey, the race is going to be over sooner, but the racetrack took a hit because, the track wasn't great for the A main Saturday night. Like, it was still really a really good race.
Yeah.
But the track kind of sucked. It had its flaws, but when you have over 300 race cars putting, I'm going to say, a couple 100,000 laps on a racetrack, you're eventually going to hit a dead end like they did. Now, Do I think starting the show instead of Monday, started on Sunday, will it help? I don't know. I really don't. Like, I know people want the Saturday night A main to be a track like the prelim nights. I just don't think that's possible. I really don't. Because either way, I think people are gonna bitch, to be honest.
They are.
The unfortunate thing is I think this is what happens when you have over 300 race cars show up and put a few 100,000 laps on a racetrack,
Mm-hmm.
a dirt racetrack at that, because eventually you're gonna hit a dead end like they did, and you can only rework the track so many times till it's stale, and it's stale, I will admit, but I don't know the right way to do it. I really don't.
I don't know either. I don't know when you've got that many cars.
I just know
on
if it
the
ain't
track,
broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. You've got that many cars on the track and there's that much racing going on. I don't know if it's even possible, whether or not you can prevent that. Now, I will say this. You can definitely say that Buddy got shafted on the on the pass. Okay. I don't know, I don't know the scoring, that I don't know how that scoring loop works or what's going on there, but Buddy definitely he should have got the lead on that. Even Logan Seavey said that he caught a break there. So yeah, that's tough. Now, would he have held on and won? I don't know. Who knows, right? It's so easy to play devil's advocate, and it's really easy to have hindsight on the whole situation and go back and just be like, well, if he had got the lead and track lockdown, he would have just won it. Who knows, right? But overall, if you look at it in totality, the Chili Bowl, it was great this year. There was a lot of good racing. Overall, it just delivered. I mean, to me, it's one of the better. I thought it was one of the better Chili Bowls I've seen in years. Just overall, the entire week of racing, there was good racing on the prelims. We saw, multi-groove racing. There was some of the, a couple of the heavy hitters weren't there again in terms of, obviously Larson came in late, but I honestly didn't think he was going to. I thought he might make would make the feature, but I didn't think he was going to be a contender for the win, just because, like we were talking about, you got to just hop into a car that you've never been in and go out there. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to do. As great as Keith Kunz is, he's not Paul Silva, right? That's who Larson is used to running dirt with. So, besides him making his double duty, but Rico wasn't there. Obviously, Christopher Bell not there. I mean, he hasn't been there for 2 years now. But you look at some of the bigger drivers not being there, and then also some of them that we are used to seeing do very well have rough nights, i.e. Justin Grant. Those guys just tough time on the track. And we saw a lot of guys step up and have incredible runs. Had I told you that the top 5 was going to be Logan Seavey and Buddy Kofoid, I mean, those two, you could be like, yeah, but then Corey Day, Daison Pursely, and Hank Davis, right? I mean, if that was a wager at a casino, the odds on that would have been pretty good, right? That would have been a nice payout. So overall, I thought it was a great week, man. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it'll be, I'm sure it'll be fun again next year. So yeah. What's your final thoughts on the Chili Bowl, Keith?
Overall, I thought it was really good. We've seen the ups and the downs and the hurt and the heartbreak of the Chili Bowl. I think it had everything that a race fan would want.
Mhm.
The feature was really good. I mean, I think Corey Day definitely put his name even more out there, even further out there. Anybody that listens to this podcast knows how we feel about Corey Day,
Yeah.
the next coming of Kyle Larson.
Yep.
I'm not afraid to admit that at all by any stretch of the imagination. And just to see the names that are usually up front that weren't up front, like the Kyle Larsons and the others, and you had guys that made the show that's never made the A main.
Yeah.
Seen how hard it is to make it. Hank Davis is one that I keep looking back on. Had a monster run last year and followed it up with another monster run this past year. I should have probably picked him for one of my prelim nights, and I didn't. I overlooked him because he's not a big name. He's not a household name. I don't know what they could do to make the Saturday night show better without doing a full track rework as far as turning the track completely over like they do after the prelim nights.
Yeah.
Because then you'd have the people, well, it's taken too long. Well, that's why they have a trade show. Go walk around.
Yep. So I think short of that, yeah, you're not going to be able to.
No, and I don't think you'd be able to. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. Logan Seavey made me eat crow, and I'm cool with that.
Yep. Another great night.
T-Mez gave us some good content.
He always does.
Cannon Macintosh did Cannon Macintosh things and couldn't even run inside the top 15 in the feature, which I thought was great to see. And I'm usually not one to wish bad intentions on, and I'm glad he didn't have a good run. I was hoping he'd blow a rod on lap 1. I think I even said that to him on Twitter. And their family deleted that tweet, and I think that's even funnier. But hey, it's awesome. The Chili Bowl. I think things like that are bound to happen. Not the Chili Bowl things are going to get rough, but there's a fine line. There should be a line drawn in the sand at some point. Overall, I thought the Chili Bowl was really good. It's usually one of my favorite races to watch to kick off racing season. And dirt racing starts with a Super Bowl, and this is dirt racing Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yep, I'm with you on that. So yeah, overall,
and what
awesome
a run
week
by
of racing.
Michael Pickens. I don't know how we overlooked him.
Yeah, yeah. So bummer for him. He DNF'd in the feature.
But hey,
overall, yeah.
You guys want some content? Look up Michael Pickens and watch what he does overseas. That dude's a beast.
Yeah, he can drive.
In a sprint car.
Yep, he can drive. So yeah.
But overall, that's my take on the Chili Bowl.
Yep, mine too. So that's going to do it all for this week's episode. Now, we are off next week. We will be back on February 1st or February 2nd. Going to depend on how my schedule looks, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. And then after that, we'll get going again with our February 1st we'll be back, and then it'll be the 15th, and then that's the week of the Daytona 500, and we'll be going every week after that. So we got a couple more of these every other weeks. Next show we will be doing our preseason breakdown of dirt racing, which going to be fun. We're going to be breaking down the High Limit and the World of Outlaws. We will, although me and Keith are not the biggest late model guys, we will talk also about the late model seasons with World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil plus USAC. So we're going to be doing a lot of dirt racing talk on the next episode.
Can I get one thing in real quick?
Yeah.
Man, hats off to freaking High Limit. the dice roll that they're doing is so badass.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it, but they redid it. So the fan that does the dice roll, if you roll, say, a 12 and the driver wins from 12, they get 12 grand, and then whoever the dice roller is, they get half of it.
Yep.
So a fan could walk away with $6,000. I think that is freaking awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool the way that they're doing it.
Hey, and hats off to them. Hats off to High Limit. I love it. I love what they're doing. I love what they're bringing to the sport of sprint car racing.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry for getting it off the rails once again.
No, you're good. Yeah, we're gonna be we're gonna be covering that in a couple of weeks when we do it, because we got a lot of stuff to cover. Rico's been kicking ass over in Australia. Fodd and Shield just got a win. Was it a couple nights ago? So a lot of stuff's been going on, over in Australia, New Zealand area with the sprint cars. Obviously we had Chili Bowl going on, which is a big deal, but we got a big breakdown coming of all things dirt here in a couple of weeks before we get into the NASCAR side of things. And I know there's been some stuff happening on the NASCAR side of things. I'm going to be honest with you. There just doesn't enough of it. It just hasn't been so much to really tickle my fancy. So we'll get back to the NASCAR stuff here soon, right, for Daytona. But until then, it's going to be dirt, because that seems to be what's going on. And I like it more. But anyways, so that's going to do it. Keith, my man, have a good weekend.
Thanks, my friend. You do the same. And
I will. And all of you out there, have a great weekend. Stay warm wherever you are in the country. I know some people right now are getting blasted by an Arctic chill. And
it's not fun, by the way.
No, it's not. It hit us like last week, and for us, we're talking like in the 20s. I mean, I know for a lot of you out there, that's a warm day this time of year. You're putting on shorts when it's that temperature. So I can only imagine how bad it is for you guys, because if it's in the 20s here, it's negative teens wherever you're at.
It's 24 right now here. We got an overnight low of 6 tonight, and kids had a snow day today. We got some snow on the ground, which I freaking hate, but hey, it's part of living in the Midwest, I guess.
Yep, exactly. So all of you have a great weekend, and we will be back here in a couple of weeks, February 1st. So please continue doing what you've been doing. Download, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And Keith and I will be back here to do it all over again. And until then, as always, take care.